UBC, inspiring Uganda. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Uganda's political landscape is about to shift. The NRM nominations are here. Who will emerge victorious? Who will shape the party's future? Join Timothy Nyangweso on Behind the Headlines as we dissect the NRM nominations. Politics, power, and intrigue. We will take you behind the scenes. Expert analysis, inside perspectives, and the latest developments. Don't miss this explosive discussion on Behind the Headlines.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. The stage is set, the players are ready, the games are on. We're talking about the political landscape of the country, especially with the expressions and the nominations happening across political parties. As the NRM has pushed it all the way to June the 30th, PFF is beginning its nominations and expressions thereof. The National Unity Platform is also kickstarting its gist there. The biggest question is these nomination fees, the money that most of the parties are requesting for. The NRM is talking about 10 billion shillings already in what they've gotten as fees. But also the issues seem to have gone under the money. When we look at these nominations and all these players are talking about roads, hospitals, is this the mandate for members of parliament and LC5s in this country? Or have we lost focus and we're just saying anything that pleases the electorate? Have we become so cheap that a packet of salt will be the purpose of your vote? There are many questions, there are very few answers, especially as we discuss expressions of interest and nominations across. Let me introduce the panel that has been nominated to be here with us today. Next to me is Professor Sarah Sally, a director at the Institute of Gender and Development Studies at Makerere University. She's with us this evening. Good evening, Professor. It's good to have you as always.
Good evening, Timothy, and good evening, our viewers. I'm happy to be here.
So I have received your nomination papers?
Yeah.
Next to the professor is the gentleman in the kitchen of the National Resistance Movement, Ambassador James William Chinobe, a commissioner at the Electoral Commission of the National Resistance Movement for the Central Region, is with us this evening. Good evening, Ambassador, and it's good to have you for the first time.
Good evening, Timo. I'm glad I was nominated successfully, and I'm happy to be here.
I hope the primaries will
share
say
a
the
panel
same.
with very senior colleagues and friends.
I hope in the discussion of the primaries you will succeed.
Well, I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so.
No stranger to the political scene of this country, an iron lady at that, Honorable Proscovia Salam Musumba, one of the founding members of the People's Front for Freedom, is with us this evening. Good evening, Honorable, and it's good to have you.
Thank you very much. It's a big pleasure.
It's an honor to
This
have you.
being my maiden
Appearance here.
appearance on Uganda Broadcasting Corporation.
Thank you so much.
It reminds me of when men were men.
We shall not get into the discussion.
And then this was the big thing.
Honorable Professor Maurice Ogenga Latigo, a farmer, a veteran politician at that, but also a scholar in many ways, but not few. Good evening, Professor, and it's good to have you.
Thank you very much, Timothy, and my colleagues, Sarah, Ambassador Salam, and my neighbor to the left. I was nominated by myself. I'm independent.
We'll get to the independence later on. Lastly but not least, the Honorable Godfrey Kabyanga, Minister of State in charge of National Guidance and ICT, but also an aspirant for Bukonzo West. Good evening, Honorable, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy and viewers. I'm happy to be on the panel with very senior politicians. I've just come to listen and learn from them.
You could have done that on the screen back home, but you're here to add value to the discussion.
But Honorable Minister, you are nominated to be here, so I hope you'll do us good. We're streaming live on YouTube. Just go there, drop your comment, let us know what you think. We're also on X, live there on the space. Let us know what you think. The number for text or WhatsApp is 0709 60 25 92 for text and WhatsApp. Let us know what you think. Let's jump into this conversation, especially looking at the national resistance movement moving strides ahead to almost get to the end of its nomination come June the 30th. Some parties have already started. The National Unity Platform has gone ahead. PFF also kicked off its nominations there, and we'll be hearing some of what is happening there. But the numbers, especially for the members of parliament and LC5s, especially in terms of fees, come between maybe 300,000 to 3 million shillings. Some areas or some parties are choosing to do it for free. Let's get to that. Honorable Ambassador Chinobe, you are at the center of this, especially that you have had more than 2,800 people expressing, more than 2,800 people being nominated. Give us a gist of what has happened in the past week with the national resistance movement that now you've moved to nominations.
Thank you, Timo. Definitely, as a mighty party, a party in government, and I think the senior most, because PPF is still our baby, which has just come on the scene again. I'm privileged to share what we have finally been doing. And if with your permission, I could go backwards slightly bit, because this whole process started on the 6th May when we started with the structural elections. But if you're talking about political strides, we have a roadmap, a political roadmap that started sometime back in March 2024. This roadmap started with us generating a voters register and preparing for these activities, and it will climax with the swearing in of members of Yala Parliament. Why do I say Yala Parliament? It's because as an electoral commission, our work is to organize elections right from when they start in the structural elections, organize elections for individual candidates when they contest, and these individual candidates are going to contest like this phase which we're handling now of members of parliament and local government leaders. Then after this level, we are going to have leaders of the party, because at this stage we've just gone through the expression of interest of parliamentarians and LC5 at the national level, but we also have having LC5 local government leaders at the districts. This exercise is ending on the 15th, and on the 17th we shall be allowing the candidates to campaign. No, on the 2nd of March we shall be allowing the candidates. 2nd of July, we shall be allowing the candidates to go into the campaigns. By 17th July, we shall have elections of the primaries of the members of parliament. Then the next level, which is equally important, is the Central Executive Committee elections. And this is the topmost organ of the NRM party. And this is slated in the month of August. Because the delegates have to emerge from the lower levels, after completing all these levels, that's when we shall go to where it used to be called Nambolet, wherever we shall be, to convene the national delegates. The delegates conference will give us the presidential flag bearer. It will also give us the leaders of the Central Executive Committee, but also leaders of the special interest groups. At the national level, we have the workers, we have the veterans, we have the entrepreneurs, we have the women, we have the youth, we have historicals, and those ones also are elected at that level in their structures, but the chairpersons of those leagues automatically become members of the Central Executive Committee.
Let's come back to what has been happening between, I think, June the 6th to the 17th, where you've ended expression, you're now into nomination as a party. 2,800 plus people have been nominated and have expressed interest.
Yeah.
Does this concern you? Because the last electoral cycle, there were 900. Now, there are 2,800. What does this mean for you as a national resistance movement?
Well, it's a positive indication because at least I've been at the center of the nominations in the last 2 days. There are so many colleagues I've seen who have not been around for so many years. It's an interpretation that possibly now the mindset is coming back to offering leadership within the big party, because for the first time we're having less unopposed leaders in the elections. Almost every constituency has got 2 to 3, and we are able to produce candidates in every electoral area of the country. And this is a very good indication of a sign of confidence, because even the caliber of the leaders who are now even nominating this time around is slightly much more higher. So we're only bothered by one thing, in that you have a constituency, with about 6 to 7 candidates. The harmonious conclusion of such an election is a major concern, and that's why we're insisting on our candidates to be disciplined, don't hurt each other, because such situations normally emerge in disgruntled candidates who eventually nominate as independents, and has been undermining some of our achievements in the electoral processes. So we are sure we are going to have constituency interactions before the primaries, try to see where we have flagged off and the need for interaction with the delegates, try to harmonize them, try to sensitize them, because at this time around when we have a register, we are trying to minimize as much as possible reasons that would propel anybody to get out of a structured election and refuse to support a candidate who has been given a flag. And that's maybe our bother. Otherwise, for the numbers, we are comfortable with it. It's okay.
Ambassador, before I get to Honorable Salam, the question I want to put to you, you talk about peaceful. We just saw a bit of chaos in Zimbabwe, in Remiyaga.
Yeah.
Your primaries in 2020 were the most violent. So when you talk about peaceful, really, have you learned anything?
We have 153 political districts. If you had very peaceful elections in 152 and you have one, I don't know whether you want to consider that less peaceful. The only problem is that normally the media picks only the negatives. But I'm trying to tell you that we had small problems, issues in Zimbabwe, which are always very known, of how the issues there are handled. And it's only, okay, we have 2 other districts, Murata and Lira, out of the 153 districts. But by good rationale, if you have 150 districts out of 153, I think we performed very well. This is one of the most peaceful activities we've had, and this was even structured. The way we have seen the caliber of the leaders who are coming in to nominate, we don't also anticipate much trouble. And the only challenge we have with some of those areas, like Zimbabwe, is one. In Zimbabwe, once you win the flag, you're almost done and you're in parliament. So the make or break is normally more in the primaries than it is in other constituencies.
Let's talk about.
And I think that's why the tension is slightly tend to get higher.
Let's talk about the 10 billion. You have collected fees worth 10 billion shillings as a party. Hasn't this become more about money than the issues?
I don't know. Why?
Because what are you standing on for these people to become aspirants?
Are you questioning the rationale of the 10 billion? Who told you it's 10 billion, by the way?
Actually, Honorable Dombo spoke about it.
Actually, it could even be more. Because the 10 billion you're using the assessment of the statistics from the national elections of the 2,700 delegates. But I'm telling you, we have had candidates even at our levels who have been paying some money there. But the issue is not even the amount. The issue is that we collect money from our candidates for a reason. One, they make a contribution to their party. That's one. Two, candidates who get nominated as flag bearers, we take them over fully. We even pay their money at the Electoral Commission, because even the Electoral Commission charges 3. I hope you're going to try to compute how much the Electoral Commission will get out of these exercises when it gets a national budget. But I'm telling you, as a party, we have, you call that appropriation in aid, those who are in parliament, money generated by the party through the membership, their contributions, and then from iPod. So the budget we have is much bigger than even 10 billion. However, we are looking at what we intend to do. For example, we are proposing joint campaigns. The cost of a joint rally is going to be on part of the party. We are going to set the stage for the candidates to campaign there without their cost. We are doing this why? We are doing it to lessen the cost of the candidates when they are campaigning. At the end of the day, we also make contribution to the candidates. For example, last elections, we gave 60 million to women contestants and 40 million to direct constituencies. So these funds we generate as a party, they are eventually returned to the flag bearers. And we consider this as a contribution by members to the party, and that budget is not actually enough. We need slightly more than 10 billion if we were to handle all those activities that you're talking about.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the members who have made those, that contribution, because it's really nice. Secondly, you're questioning ours because it's transparently given in the banks and you even get receipts. But I know of parties where they pay even more than 3 million, which is never receipted, which is never acknowledged. But we get it in the media.
Ambassador,
when we hear
was
candidates
more on
themselves.
issues than the money.
No, you mentioned 10 billion. I'm now telling you that our 10, you are talking about it because for us, ours is gazetted, we even receipt it. But we have heard from sister parties that people pay is much higher than that, though it's not recognized and receipted. So money from members is okay for their parties, because
So
parties here have
better
generated
the
their
logo
own
than the
party.
speak. Let me come to Honorable Salam. Honorable, how is PFF preparing? I saw Honorable Michael Kabazaguruka coming out to give a brief roadmap of how PFF is preparing. How are you preparing, and what does the terrain look like for you as you come out as the youngest party?
The baby.
The baby.
Yes. The baby is well. It is. It's help.
They were twins.
So what you
Front
have?
and PFF.
What you have is the People's Front for Freedom, a newly registered political entity that is emerging out of a situation that is very clear to all of you, and that what we are dealing with is transitioning to a new political platform that provides a voice and a choice to the people of Uganda. We are already well established countrywide. We've been at it for long, and we've hit the ground running. And so we are really set. We are ready, set to go. For a long time we were being asked, when will you be registered? Will you be ready? We are ready. And so what we announced is one of the processes that lead you into providing a competitive platform, a viable platform for people to be heard countrywide. That's what we are doing, the business we know best. No halabaloo. Just get ready and go.
When you look at the political terrain,
yes,
Honorable Salam, you spoke about it before we came on air. Is it conducive for you as PFF, the youngest party, to come into this playground?
You see, we are ready to ramble in the jungle. We are ready. Our toolkit, our political toolkit, is full of every tool on the table. So we are ready. We are ready to go. And there's nothing to write home about, because these are processes we've been involved with for a long time. It's not the fanfare that you see at NRM, the fanfare, you know, the loudness and all that. That is psychological warfare, but it adds to nothing much, because the ground should be set for a country that has been at this for 40 years now, should be presenting a better, solid terrain for all of us. Ugandans should have choice. And I think that's what all our different parties do. And when you can't pick from the menu, the buffet, then you go independent, like Professor has chosen to. And so, kindly, let's get on with the business. The country is waiting.
What is PFF offering? What is PFF?
We are offering quality leadership. Quality leadership. Because you see, in this country, there's a leadership deficit. Don't think that everybody that is being presented is quality. Just look at what you have in Parliament today. You have more numbers than quality. And so if you're going to audit the quality of politics that we have by the numbers, you got your parameters upside down. And so what we are presenting in the political menu, in the political platform, is quality. Quality leadership to keep the country on track on what needs to be done to it. Not just noise. No. Not just colors. No. We have tried noise, we have tried colors. They have not delivered the democratic goodies that this country so badly needs.
Thank you. Professor Latigo, you as an elder, you who has been in the dungeons and come out to be able to now see it from a bird's view, when you look at the process of the national resistance movement and you look at all these expressions, nominations, this whole noise like Honorable Salam is talking about, what do you make of all this now?
Thank you. You know, when Ambassador Kinobe was talking, I kept watching him and I said, maybe I should become an ambassador one time, because the guy was looking like Julius Nyerere. and I said,
you mean the looks or the content?
I was seeing him there.
All right.
And maybe yes, it is a compliment, but also a challenge, because Nyerere did all he could for Tanzania, and at some stage said, I've done my part, let the others continue. But yeah, now for me, I can tell you that my choice not to be in any party is probably an expression of my frustration with the politics of Uganda, where being in parties take precedence over being a committed and devoted Ugandan, where once your party wins, you have succeeded. And yet, when your party wins, you carry the responsibility of ensuring that this country progresses, that there's equity in leadership, that our resources are used the way they are meant to be used, and that if you went to offices, you don't feel a stranger in your own country because you look around for your own people and you don't see any. That is very frustrating. And so regardless of what the ruling party particularly does, regardless of how efficiently they conduct their candidate selection and registration and ultimately nomination processes, as long as those things don't reflect the critical concern that faces our country, it is an exercise in futility. Of course, Salam represents a very new party, but very old faces. Salam, KB, Lukwago, they've all been in the politics of this country. We've been together in FDC. In fact, I was surprised that you never mentioned FDC in your introductory remarks. I don't know what problems you have with FDC. but definitely FDC is also a party which is there. The leadership went to Agago and they called me, and I said I'm in Kampala, and they started saying all kinds of things. Why don't we put you on the phone and you greet the delegates we are talking with? And I said, no, I don't do things that way. And again, seeing the party of Salam, seeing Nandala and Amuriat in Agago gives me even greater pain.
It does.
Because when we formed FDC as a party, it was absolutely about the country. It was absolutely about committing ourselves to the best interest of the country. And it was a party that generated lots of hope amongst Ugandans. If it were formed with that strength now, its formation alone would have swept the ruling party. But it was formed in a very challenging time. We went through the challenges until it reached a stage where I chose for my own peace of mind to nominate myself as an independent in the politics of Uganda. But that gives me the mandate to talk without fear or favor. And you know, here and elsewhere, I've spoken very strongly about the leadership of the NRM, the imperative to consider the country first. And as PFF comes, I do hope that their politics will be different from the politics of adversity with NRM, because if you do that, you will actually plunge yourself into quicksand and you'll go nowhere. Sooner or later, the country will realize that it is not political parties that matter, that it is the country that matters, and that this country is not actually okay. So your party can do excellent elections if the roads are bad. The roads are still bad. Just 2 days, today in the papers, people are talking about the tarmac in Rukungiri and somewhere. The road is very bad. Maybe to Arua, the road is very bad. And then the other day, I even saw in the papers where people from the Prime Minister's place said, if you don't do the roads, we are not even going to vote. Can you imagine?
The numbers.
Uganda in 2025, and we are talking about roads. When I was growing up, 10 o'clock in Kalongu in Agago, UGANDA'S published in Kampala, would be there, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, Elliot bread baked in Kenya would be there. And when you look at the reversal, repeatedly this week you have seen threats of anger. The issue of the Ugandans, the vegetables we eat coming from outside the country. In a country most endowed climatically and with very fertile soils and hardworking people, can't the NRM do us a favor and focus on this country than their electoral successes?
When you look, PFF is here. Democratic Front has also become a new front there. When you see we had the FDC wave, we had the National Unity Platform wave that happened in 2021, what wave do you see in 2026? What happens? Because we have new parties, we have NRM saying we shall not have independence if someone does not get the flag. What do you make of the new wave come 2026?
Well, first of all, I'm keenly waiting to watch how the NRM primaries go. Because even when Ambassador Kinobe says that it has been very peaceful, we read newspapers, we read stories on social media. Incredible stories. And what comforts me are the voices of prominent people in NRM. General Otafire, for example, says, you, the army, keep out of politics. You, NRM, stop fighting the other parties. And then to see academician Mary Karoro cautioning the NRM that if you don't change your ways, it is going to be. That's the truth. So if you ask me, what do I see? I see an electoral year which is going to be, will create complications. I hope it will not be like UPC preparing for their primaries in 1985, and they were saved by the Tito Okello coup. Because that year, if UPC held primaries, I don't know how many people would have died in the struggle to be candidates. Absolutely similar to what we see of the NRM now. The tragic thing about power is that when you carry it on, then it will smash you with its own weight. And so while the other parties are supposedly being eliminated, all the chaos in those parties will go to NRM.
Exported.
Yes. And in the NRM, the ambitions of those who left the other parties because there are greener pastures in NRM will show. And they will have serious consequences for our country. Unfortunately, beyond nominations, unless something really happens, we have already seen indicators from the Kawempe North by-election, where individuals who think they own this country will throw the military and security agencies to cause chaos. I was even told over this week, there were people beating up people within Kampala. Now, you just look at what is happening in Kenya, where the ruling party even pays hooligans to work on people who are demonstrating on account of a blogger being killed or dying in police cells. Now, if Kenya begins to manifest that level of impunity and violence, what will happen to us?
And you've spoken about the blogger, even the hawker that was shot on the street.
Yes.
Those are the two incidents that happened. Let me come to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you were a player in this field, but also you are in charge of national guidance. The languaging was one of the issues in 2021. Messages that were said, sloganeering. How do you give optimism and direction to this country, especially as we jump into the primaries of most of the political players?
I think in most of the elections, there's one aspect which is captured, and that is civic education. It has not been well captured. And I would love that really electoral commission and all other stakeholders, players in the electioneering system could emphasize the issue of civic education. Because most of this bad language which comes up, it's because people sometimes go without really knowing exactly how the game should move. And when it comes, I think, to multi-party politics, it even becomes more language comes in. And now with the even sophistication of technology, it is even becoming worse, because we have been following, as Minister of ICT, what is now being aired on social media, TikTok, YouTube. You just meet, it's all about abusive language. And people try to outdo one another just because of politics. But I think we still have time. We have partnered with the Electoral Commission. We want to put a lot of energy in civic education, and we have invited other stakeholders so that we can get enough airtime to really try to guide people on how to conduct themselves during this electioneering period. And I would like to appeal to Ugandans that life is not about elections. Life is not about politics and elections. Life is about so many other things. And there are so many leaders, even in this country and elsewhere, who have contributed to national development and are not necessarily in any politics. So if we can all have that feeling, the life, this life even after politics. All these are senior leaders, they have been in politics, they have been in parliament, they have tried, they have lost, but they are still participating and they are still contributing to national building and national development. So I think, I feel that's where we should go, guide people properly, tell them what is involved during electioneering, and obviously also educate them on what could happen if we continue with the hate speech, because we all need a stable country, and election period is a short period, but it can easily derail the whole country if we don't manage it very well. So I think as much as possible, we should go into the management of this electioneering period and see to it that all parties go through their primary elections well, and then we prepare for general elections. And the principle should be a free and fair elections everywhere, whether intra-party or general, but we should have free and fair elections, both at primary level and general elections.
Honorable Minister, elections tend to tear this country in colors. By the time we finish elections, there's finger pointing, there are people who have split. You are in charge of national guidance. You are really, the country needs you to give guidance on where it should be going. When you talk about the split between FDC and PFF, when you talk about NUP and Democratic Front, you are meant to be the neutrality to bring this country together. Why is this absent, even after elections or before?
You know, we're going into a competition. And with multi-party politics, every political party is looking to govern this country. And just as I told you, people are using different strategies and tactics to gain that power, to take over that power. And during that period, there are so many things which happen. Just like in a football game, there are rules of the game. But you meet someone has injured another. So we need to have strong rules, strong referees to ensure if there is any injury, the one who injured is penalized. given a red card. So those are the things I think which we need to strengthen the rules of the game. But to be sincere to you, there is a competition, and the parties are competing to take power, and they have colors, and they will paint those colors the whole country, because that is the game. That's the rule of the game.
Okay.
But if we have strong, very strong laws which can moderate, which can make the playing field level, then even after those elections, we shall still have some national consensus and say, let the winner move on. Because with multi-party politics, the winner takes it all. That is the biggest problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And I hope that what Ugandans are looking for is not you taking power, is what you do with the power. But let me come to Professor.
You can't do anything with the power if you have not yet taken it.
Because some of
you first get it.
Honorable Minister, some of the promises being made by the aspirants are quite ridiculous. But let me come to Professor. Professor, all political players across the board, different political parties, how do we find, or how do we strike a balance between competition, unity, and keeping our country together?
Thank you very much, Timothy. I think
because,
actually the
sorry,
country...
Ambassador mentioned some places have 3 aspirants.
Yeah.
And when they get to when the rubber hits the road, there is competition. But how this country, I like what Honorable General Tafire said, this country will be here. We found it.
Yeah.
We are here with it. We'll leave it here.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. I know there are many aspirants coming up, and I think so far the newspaper also just gave us the ones for NRM. But I know in addition to the people who are vying for the NRM primaries on those constituencies, they're also going to be contestants from the different parties. I think it's good to know that people are interested in leadership, and how I wish this could actually translate in civic leadership in this country, or civic citizenship, where people are really concerned about the affairs of their country beyond just vying to enter the parliament. But I don't think it's really going to tear the country apart. As the Honourable Minister said, there's going to be a competition. And this competition is going to be decided on different matters. I know the people in the villages are not very much what we think they are. They will listen to the different players, and they will choose the one who serves their interests most. Now, their interests may not be your interests, in that their interests could be those who barter for them more, those who spend for time more. So your understanding of what the right leader should be vis-a-vis what they think is the right leader will depend on how they have experienced that leader before the elections, or if they have been in the elections before, how they experienced that leader in the election. So indeed, there's going to be a lot of promises. The reason why the biggest drive of these promises is that actually parliamentarians have become the biggest vehicle of taking national development to the ground. In as much as the parliament is supposed to be a watchdog, it ends up doing a lot of the development in the past. So again, people are going to look and see where they think there is a lot of capacity to deliver what they want. Like I imagine people who are in areas with poor road network will be interested in hearing what a contestant is saying about that road network. So I think that's just expected, and that is human. And so there are going to be different parties, but I don't think different colors, different parties really divide this country this much, because you always observe voter behavior. After the elections, people are together, they are trading together, they are going for the same weddings, they are going for the same burials, they are going for those kinds of things. So, but of course what we cannot ignore are the structural divides that have always been historic in certain places. For example, there are issues of religious divides. There have always been ethnic tensions. And as we've been seeing from the previous elections, there's a lot of now the generational divide. where younger people think they're significantly different from old people and why they think old people have nothing more to tell them. So we are going to see a lot of this, but I don't think it will reach the point of really dividing the country, because at the end of the day, after the elections, people have to feed, people have to fend for their families, people have to find work. And that I don't want to say maybe the biggest number of people turning up is because people don't have work. And if I was to say that, maybe it is based on the fact that we also have very many younger people entering the elections, where people can easily get the 3 million to be registered, but not easily know where the rest is going to come from to campaign. But even these younger ones, a lot of people have a lot of faith in them. So it's going to be an interesting contest.
You say that the country will not be torn apart, but when we remember November 2020, Luka almost tore this country apart with demonstrations across that led to killings. But that's not the question.
There were demonstrations in Kampala and in the eastern and Jinja and Iganga.
There was also in Arua.
Yeah, but how many towns are those in the country? You know, when you say they're tearing the country apart.
The cameras could get to. But
it's good. We don't need those kinds of scenes.
The question is, we have 2.8 million leaders across.
Yes.
They're going to grow to 3.3.
Yes.
Why has politics become the new career path?
I think, thank you. I think it's just because politics is the one thing that is growing, and growing very fast. Every time you look around, there's a political talk show, there's a chimeza, there's an engagement. It is one thing which is engaging the people throughout. But of course, whoever is campaigning is telling us that they are going into leadership to serve the people. And sometimes this serving the people is by directly providing the funding if they have it. The other way of serving the people is they want to reach where the national cake is divided so as to be able to negotiate more for their people. But again, politics becomes very amplified in this country because it has become the vehicle through which people get things, okay? I mean, look, where you have a powerful political leader, you're likely to get a road, you're likely to get a health facility, you're likely to get a school. So even the people pay attention, more attention to politics. Of course, there are the regular things we do which we engage in without maybe paying much attention. The job you do, or engagement in markets, or in farming, people are always doing that. But people have learned that the best way to access the national cake is to actually have a political leader who can negotiate. So you're going to see a contest of powerful people. So I don't really think it is the only career pathway. There are very many other career pathways, but this maybe happens to be the most prominent. And it's prominent because, one, the credentials for entry are lowered to increase participation. So you find from as low as, is it some levels take senior 4, some levels take senior 6. There's no level which is really taking a university degree. If you have it, well and good. But they lowered the qualification for it to be well all-inclusive. Of course, that at the end of the day then gets undermined by high nomination fees, because then, and maybe high campaign fees. But other than that, the process is meant to be very inclusive of everybody. So it appears to be the biggest career pathway because it has one of the lowest levels of entry to increase participation.
Interesting. Let me read some messages so that we can take a break here. A lot of messages coming through. Let me get to the ones that are at the top. Good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. The Honorable Minister, I would like to know about this village called Serere. I have struggled to push some of the people through, but the school dropouts, the questions about this, the financial crises, there are a lot of questions, but there are few answers that are being given. At the village level, because there is no one benefiting from government programs as mentioned by some of the political players, okay? Thank you for your message. The messages keep coming in there. One more says, good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the panel. Honorable Salam Sumba, I thank PFF for offering quality leadership. This is seen today. People who steal money from government are excused by the president. That's why everyone is going to NRM to be protected, even when they have cases like the Karamoja Mabati, when they should be in jail or interdicted. We all need leaders now like Professor Ogenga. Please join the party. Which party? Join the party and leave the independence there, okay? This is Dacha, Sam Dacha from Ginger, okay? Anan says, Timothy, thank you for the program. I'm Wilson from Chotera. When you look at the rules of the game in Uganda, as far as politics is concerned, change is long overdue, if all we have ever existed. The so-called referees have been chased out of the field. It is only VAR of the Wananchi, who are just looking on, but no whistle to blow. No one to appeal to. The justice was toppled. Security personnel is a refuge. The leadership has gone corrupt. The system has gone under. Okay. Finally, before we take a break, Timothy, thank you. The leaders must have a minimum academic qualification to run for political offices. Voters should have the minimum qualifications to know the aptitude of the people they're nominating or they're going to vote for. The Electoral Commission should conduct civic education. This is Awanyi George there. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be analyzing these expressions and nominations, but also looking at the terrain, what it looks like come the future.
Uniquely ours. Explore Uganda.
You got us on your wallet. Bobby, again! What's this drama?
Drama? Colleagues, elections for special interest groups are calling. SIGs, elections. Youth, PWDs, elderly. It's time to vote for our leaders. June through August. From village to parish to district to nationals. Youth, PWDs, elderly. It's time, go vote your leaders. No! F-O-B! Elections are supposed to be peaceful. Easy vote, okay?
Youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. It's time to choose our leaders. Let's show up and participate in the special interest group elections. Starting June through August this year. Your vote, your voice. My vote, my voice. This message is brought to you by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
He's
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80 hash. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees for your child for a whole year.
The second National Symposium on Land Governance in Uganda is here, happening this 27th of June 2025 at the Parliamentary Conference Hall. This year's theme, Securing Women's Agricultural Land Ownership, a Political and Development Imperative. The chief guest will be the Right Honorable Robina Nabanja, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda. The symposium is organized by the Uganda Parliamentarians Land Management Forum in collaboration with the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, with support from IGAD and development partners. Please note, participation is strictly by invitation. Together, let's advance women's land rights for a more inclusive and sustainable Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. In the studio, I'm joined by Professor Sarah Sali, Ambassador James William Chinobe. I'm joined by Honorable Proscovia Salam Musumba. I'm also joined by Professor Honorable Ogenga Morris Latigo. I'm also joined by the Honorable Minister of State for National Guidance and ICT, Honorable Godfrey Kabyanga. We're discussing everything, the expression and the nominations that are happening, but also the look at the terrain going forward. If 2,800 people have expressed interest in the NRM, that means for every constituency, or for the 529 who are supposed to be members of parliament, that means every place has 5 vying for the same post. Wow.
And that's NRM alone.
That's just NRM. I haven't even brought in the rest.
When you clean up NRM, then it will be one person per party. So it's not a crowd. It's a crowd at cleaning up level, at the vetting level, at the primary level. So nothing to worry about.
This is Elugu Walter Peter. I'm so glad to see Honorable Salam Musumba and Honorable Latigo. The question to the Minister of National Guidance and ICT is, what's the relevance of these elections when the ground is not leveled? It's suppressing opposition and efforts that are trying to move the country forward, okay? George from Lira says, in reality, citizens are looking for good leaders, but our leaders are so mean and self-centered. All these care about their pockets and nothing more. Finally, for this segment, good evening. This is Malcolm Masiko, FDC nominee for Igara East, okay? The country deserves better leaders, and the only party to offer that good leadership is the FDC. Okay, interesting. The wave of 2026 will come from FDC as a party. Very optimistic in the way you're speaking about it. All the best. Let me come to Ambassador Chinobe. Ambassador, within the NRM, are there positions that are ring-fenced for particular individuals?
Yes. The SEC positions are ring-fenced, yes.
Honorable,
not ring-fenced per se that they can't be elective, but there is a criteria to access the topmost organ of the party. And if you had looked at our criteria, we're looking at eligibility. You must be, of course, with the general ones above 18. You must be a member of the NRM. You must have a proven record of service in the NRM. Your loyalty, your integrity. You don't have criminal cases against you. And definitely the committee vets, like for example, when I say committed service, the NRM, that's a broad thing. So you can only have an organ to vet how you offer your services. Otherwise, the rest of the positions below that are not ring-fenced.
So the ones for SEC are ring-fenced?
The one for SEC, to offer yourself as a candidate.
What is the criteria there?
I've listed a few of them. I said commitment to the party, your record of service, party loyalty, and of course the general ones about conduct, honesty, you're not bankrupt, you've been paying your taxes, are all those related criteria. But the assessment is done by a committee of SEC, which evaluates candidates and then push them to be voted for in the national conference.
So let me ask a straight question. 2020, John Simbwa put himself to vie for the chairmanship of the NRM. Then the Secretary General said that he didn't have the money. Actually, your chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Tango Doi, said he didn't have the money. John Simbwa said the time had not elapsed for him to do that. Secondly,
when did he think of contesting?
That is 2020.
No, I mean, the time to do what? To generate money? The time to do what?
The Dr. Tango Doi said...
Unfortunately, I'm not privy to what happened that time.
Okay,
Maybe give me information.
Let me bring the one that is closest. Bukedia,
the
Speaker of Parliament, her opponent. What were the reasons that the Secretary General
That's
gave?
not SEC.
No, I'm
it
talking
is
about
at
nomination
a district
now.
level.
Yes, nomination now.
Yes.
For Bukedia aspirants. The opponent was denied by a letter written by the Secretary General. What were the reasons?
Do you know the eligibility credentials?
What were the reasons?
No, but do you know them? Because
you just mentioned them, loyalty.
No, I'm not talking. I was talking. Your question was on SEC.
Yes.
SEC is
ring fencing.
No, ring fencing is only at SEC.
Yes.
The rest of the offices are not ring fenced. These people are contesting to be members of leaders of Bukedia.
Yes.
And that one is not ring fenced.
So what I am asking is, what were the reasons that the Secretary General gave that you, as the Electoral Commission of the National Resistance Movement, refused?
Now, the criteria to contest in any election, and it's not only that one. By the way, I've removed many people who are coming in to express interest. One of them, you must be a member of the NRM. You must be in the register. You must declare where your register is. We have, in the NRM, we have, like the Electoral Commission, we have the voter location slip. That location voter slip indicates that you, what's the name of this village?
This is Nakasero.
It locates that you're in Nakasero cell, you're resident there. One of the major requirements in our electoral laws is that you must be ordinarily a resident within the area that you declare as an area of origin. And the contestant was not.
Of that area?
She's not ordinarily a resident of that area, and that disqualified her.
In 2020, Tororo...
You remember the old law we had made that even when you're not, you have 6 months. I think it was scrapped in the recent laws. You must be ordinarily a resident, and you must prove that.
In 2020, the Secretary General, Right Honorable Rumumba, wrote to Dr. Tango Doi asking that Tororo becomes split into two. Dr. Tango Doi refused that directive. Why did he agree to this one?
But I don't come from Tororo. Tororo has now been split even in three. This is not my mandate. Our mandate was to organize for elections. Our mandate was to get candidates. They express their interest. We evaluate the credentials and see whether they follow the guidelines. It's one of our guidelines that if you to be nominated as a candidate, one of the requirements, you must be a resident, ordinarily residing in the area that you declare as your area of origin, where you recorded as a voter. And she was not. And the Secretary General, because we don't control the register, by the membership register. For us, we control a voters register. And the voters register, which we received as Electoral Commission from the Secretary General, did not indicate her as a voter in the area that she indicated. And on that ground, she was disqualified. And there were only 2 candidates who had expressed interest in that area. So the only option was to declare the remaining candidate as unopposed.
When you look at your primaries in 2021,
I'm looking at these primaries where I am now.
Yes.
Because at that time I was still in the service, I was an ambassador. But if you want me to make reference to those ones, you invite me next time and I'll dig up all the records of what happened that time.
What lessons can you draw from them?
We are talking about this particular election.
What lessons can you draw from them to aid you to have a better primary in 2026?
For example, we didn't have a register last elections. When we had cries about people to vote, the president gave a directive that whoever says... Wait a minute. We're not talking about the baby PPF.
And it had 11 million people.
We did not have a digitalized register for the voters, and that's why when the president had complaints, people were complaining, I'm NRM, I'm that, he gave a directive, let everybody vote, and everybody meant everybody, including those from the opposition and so on. It created a bigger problem in that you would have returns of getting 2,000 or more voters voting for somebody when you actually go down and find the voters are fewer. This time around, we agreed that before the next round comes, we should have a digital register, a hard record. And this time around, if you've been following our elections at the villages, we are reading names of voters, and that's how the voters would get into the pitch where exercise was going on. We ascertained the number of voters, and there's no way a presiding officer would declare numbers over and above those who have voted, as it was in the case of 2021. So the lesson we had learned from that election is that people were disenfranchised, especially those who are destroyed, by having voters who are not their supporters. For example, we know that in most constituencies, most opposition members came in and voted the strongest candidates to lose, so that they retain the weaker ones. Come the competition between parties, you have a weaker candidate because the strong one has been eliminated, or the strong one is now objecting to stand and come as independent, and many of them ending up in parliament. So we are, by having a register, we are trying to respond to one of the issues that has been causing many of our members to get disenfranchised and annoyed and standing as independents.
Honorable Salam, what is the cornerstone of PFF? What are you hinging on? Professor Latigo hinted on something of adversaries. What is PFF hinged on?
We are hinged on providing a better government that manages the resources equitably, that understands the challenges that face the country today, to sort out the distortions that have happened over time, to reinforce the rule of law, because we have been the largest victims of the absence of that. Right now we have our leader, the retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, continually being detained beyond even the mandatory bail provided for in the Constitution. So rule of law is so important to us. Freedom, that's why we have chosen the name of our party as a front for freedom, because you can't have even democracy without freedom. So the biggest threat we face as a country now is that we have been emasculated, we have been captured. This entire state is captured. That's why the rule of law doesn't matter no more. That's why you have young people in Uganda, the youngest resource we have in the country, languishing in sugarcane cutting, in ghettos, in unemployment, in chapati, in the informal sector, because the economy has been captured by just a few. We would want to have a country that works for all of us, not just some of us. We want to close the disparity in economic opportunity.
How?
By having policies and implementing policies that ensure that the budget and the resources are shared. So, I want you to look at Karamoja, for instance. The biggest wealth of Karamoja, cement, marble, gold, come from Karamoja. Look at the Karamojong. All their resources are scooped by the big fat cats that run government. As the Karamojongs wallow in poverty, and they haven't even stopped there. They have arrested them on trumped-up charges and locked up, and they're nameless, they're faceless, and they're in their hundreds. The distance from Karamoja to come to Kampala to follow up onto those unfortunate people that are languishing in prisons for over a year. Whenever I go to visit Dr. Besigye in Luzira, he gives me a list. Now, your people here from Busoga are this many. They have not been visited for so long. the Karamajongs are this number. While he's in prison, he's doing research about the inequities that are happening. The many nameless, tagless fellows that are languishing in prison. You have locked up opportunity, you've locked up resource. You have condemned people to live quarter a life. These injustices are all defined in our aspiration for a free country. We thought we had gotten to be a free country at independence. It hasn't. It hasn't. What do we offer to the country? We will be, by the way, I'm talking about all this, we haven't even launched to the country. I'm not authorized yet to do so. And so, watch us. We know where it is hurting most in this country. And we have warned over the years. When you amend a constitution that was made by the people, and you amend it, adulterate it, you know, emasculate it, trash it, you will find the restlessness in the society that you see today. We are a restless society. We are an unhappy society. And please don't try to cover up in your suits, because you don't represent the people of Uganda, the majority of whom are wallowing in poverty. They don't look like us.
How do you separate the rice from the chaff? Because Professor said something that is delicate.
Yes.
Becoming focused on adversity, as in you are just opponents pushing for a competition. How do you separate that from the chaff from the rice itself and make sure you're not having both mixed there?
And what's wrong if I mixed it?
We will not know what to eat and what not to eat.
Listen, you have to digest this and sort it out. Don't try to make us clean up, cleanse political correctness. This situation is untenable for the ordinary Ugandan. Look at the taxes. Do you know how many people have been driven out of business because of discretionary powers of tax officers? The people, the majority of whom were in Chikubo, had to walk away. And who has brought in the new businesses? The others have been taken back to the village, as the ordinary people say. So we know the inequalities, we know the service, the policies that have made some people, some communities plunge back into poverty. I'll give you an example of Busoga. We were a rich region. The Busoga under Obote and the Busoga under Museveni, rank them. Under Obote, Busoga was number 2 in this country. We, our grandparents, our fathers, could lend money like the World Bank to the government. Under Museveni and NRM, we are second last. And don't ask us not to be angry. We are. Are you
going to present candidates for all 146 districts, including the presidency, as PFA?
We shall.
You a new party.
Come on.
With no financing.
Who tells you that finance is what creates leadership? It's the head. That's why with so much money they can do nothing.
Let me leave it at that. Let me pick up Professor.
It is the will. It is the passion to live in a better country. I do believe you want to live in a better country. True. I lived in a better country as a child. That's why I'm here. If I didn't live a better life then, I would be dead. So please don't tell us, don't talk over us about how things are well. Yes, they are well for you, Commissioner NRM. They are well for you. The majority of people where I live, they are not. We are cutting sugarcane today. I'll give you just one statistic. Young people between 18 and 30 in the last census in Busoga are 980,000. Of these, 760 have dropped out of school.
Wow.
Of those 700, 127,000 have never been to school. I mean, it's crazy. We provide all the dams. Chihira, Nalubale, Bodagali, Isimba. I mean, we have powered this nation for generations. Why hasn't this nation powered us? Why? It's because of politics, and that's what we seek to reset. Don't get us angrier, please.
Wow. Yes, Ambassador, before I get to Professor Latigo.
No, I entirely agree with my sister, but still takes us back to what we were saying earlier on. Yes, it is very nice to point out the symptoms. It's very important to say what you've done wrong, but it's also equally important to offer alternatives, because what works out in many other countries is that, you know, this guy has messed up your PE. If I come in power, I will handle it this way. So that the voter out there is given a menu on what to choose as an alternative. But if the alternative is just point out what has gone wrong without you promising on how you intend to correct it, that accumulates anger among the voters. And the voters, wait a minute. See what has happened in this country. The opposition successfully builds up anger among the population against things they believe are being done wrong. You would expect what happens in other countries. If the incumbent loses, the opposition rises. The current problem in this country, even when we were at 75 and FDC was at 30%, when we dropped to 60, they dropped to 10. You know, these are statistics which came out. Okay, let me finish my point.
Please finish.
Now, when you're in government and your rating drops, naturally, it would be expected that your opposition picks it up from there. But as we drop, they also lose. Even at our worst, we're still the best alternative. Because as we speak now, she has been to issues in PAFO, formed the FDC, created hope, it collapsed. Today the leading party is different. Today she has a new baby. Now Ugandans want change, but they want change for something. I'm making my submission that for me, I think the most credible and the best way of proceeding as a country. I don't deny that maybe there are certain things we've not done well. But we want to know if there's anybody who does it better than we do. And that's the problem. You only say you've done wrong. How are you going to do it any different? Just how they manage even their own parties.
Okay.
So if you can't even manage your own organizations to survive the tide, then how are you convincing us that you even manage the country? Because Ochaite begins at home. We have been able to manage this party, despite all the challenges. We were with them, they left, it didn't collapse. For 40 years, we are still a strong party moving and even getting stronger. What's happening to those opposite us? That's the offer we wanted to see if we could have alternative ideas emerging, and we give the ordinary people a menu. We have a manifesto. We offer a manifesto. Offer yours. Convince people around that manifesto, not individual politics. Adversarial politics is the part of the problem. If it is to change leadership, this country has changed leaders more than any country in East Africa. This is the time we even had presidents of 62 days. But did the changing of leaders change this country? But to have held the country for 40 years peacefully, albeit all our troubles, is a credit you should give to this government. Then maybe there are areas we've not done well. One would say, okay, fine, for us, we have created a platform, like we're setting a stage now. Everybody is now talking about structures. Everybody now is talking about their conferences because we set the stage. We have set the stage of having elections. They are also...
You did not set the stage. We are all complying with our constitution.
No, so where? But you have no choice. You have to modify yourselves. We have even created a situation that even if parties, when they get members in parliament, you get some portion of the money, so you will see even more parties. Because now parties are about what MPs you send to parliament. If your party has an MP, at least something comes. It's okay. Democracy grows. But as it grows, let also the content we offload to the voters as optional choices should also increase in quality. But otherwise, you dismantle, you successfully demolish the popularity of the party in power when you're also losing down. We don't want anarchy. We want people to have at least credible alternatives. I say, okay, we are fed up with NRM. You've taken us this far, things have not worked. Let's look at the alternative. When you look at the alternative, it's even worse than what is there. So honestly, as a country, we need to give leadership. Where we fail, we say, fine. These ones, I think, have superior ideas.
Thank you, Ambassador.
And that's where you have constructive opposition forces engaging in giving leadership to the people, not just pointing out what you can do. It's good. It's easy by them to be in the opposition. Because when I offer to make 10 things good and I fail on one, your duty is to point out on the one. It's not your duty to mention where I've done well. I agree with you because it's my duty. But you discount every good thing just because small portions of it have not worked out and you don't offer an alternative. Okay. That's my major point.
Ambassador, allow me give a response to Honorable Salam.
Yes.
Yes. You wanted to respond.
You see, this patronizing that they have done better. They have been at the forefront of destroying systems, destroying opponents, destroying political parties. They have invested so much. I am glad that we are people from our party are about to capture that party. I am so glad.
Thank you. Professor,
we are about to capture you, finally. Because you could not build even cadreship for you to prepare succession within your party. So I will happily be here to congratulate us for finally capturing the NRM party.
Professor Ogenga,
thank you.
I wanted to dig into this adversarial notion you brought on the table. When you hear this back and forth, do you get concerned? Because words that Honorable Salam is using are capture, but also Honorable Ambassador has talked about constructive criticism, alternatives. We have babies, we have parties. What is your view?
You know, early this evening, I gave a talk. There's a conference going on at Hotel Africana, and I said the big difference between, for example, us in Uganda and Kenya, in terms of party politics, is the simple nomenclature. In Kenya, have not had parties being called, this is an opposition party. A particular party will be called by its name because no party is ever formed to live in opposition.
As an address.
Parties are formed based on principles, convictions, but here, when they want to talk about when I was still active in FDC, of course, I was the official opposition. That is in Parliament. But outside Parliament, I was FDC. But unfortunately, for NRM, if you're not NRM, you're opposition.
That's your name.
Now,
people, let's give Professor the opportunity to complete his submission.
Because if I were to go into politics to be opposition, I would not go. Because it means that I don't have a chance to govern the country. And yet, every party strives to get the opportunity to govern the country. So instead of judging us as opposition, you opposition, say you socialist, that can be understood. You capitalist. Even during DP and UPC times, the focal area was DP was supposed to be very capitalistic. UPC was a tendency towards socialism. And so the difference was ideological. In this country, what we will need to do is that we accept that the country needs a reset. And that reset is possible if, for example, the party in power now say, why don't we sit down and look at the situation in this country and define the best way forward? The thing that the Godbars and Justice Ogola tried to do, national dialogue, so that the bile that has filled so many hearts come out, the desires that could never be expressed or listened to come out, and they're listened to. And then we define a way forward. Countries in Southeast Asia made rapid progress. And by the way, I also today gave the example of Ethiopia. You go to Ethiopia, go to Addis, go to Asmara, go to any of the cities. Fly up there and you see how organized agriculture is. And you ask yourself, where did Ethiopia get all the money to do that? Why, as a member of the Pan-African Parliament, I used to go there, and we had a driver that would move us around every time we went there. And after going to one other city, I came back and I asked this guy, I said, how did you guys make it? He said, even us, we don't know. It is like providence. In other words, it is actually possible to do incredible things if we leave our self-interest out and bring collective interest to address the political challenges of our country. The energy we spend fighting each other is energy lost from working together to transform the country. And for me, that is where I had difficulties. I mean, as leader of opposition, I kind of understood these guys. If you slip into baseless criticism, they leave the issue and make your criticism the issue. So those days, for example, if I was responding to the president, in my address, you'll never find anything that you can pick as a falsehood, as you can pick as anger, as you can pick as insult. And the facts would then stand out, and they would literally have no reply to that. You know the issue, UPE, the false figures.
Yes.
He had to put a commission. The tax income. And when I did the calculation and I told them, in fact, that day I even had to be modest, because if I brought out all the figures, they would have been very angry. But like I said some weeks ago, I said, Mr. President, these young people don't hate you. They only want to be. That being Ugandan is something that they can be proud of. That they can talk about the opportunities they gain as citizens and the progress that they made as citizens. But if they don't see it, and for example, they see certain elements exceedingly benefiting, the anger of Salam is there. In fact, let me say it here. You know, more than 70% of Uganda's oil is in Acholi. But nobody will talk about oil in Acholi. They will say oil in Bunyoro. When it comes to in Acholi, they will say oil in Nwaya. And they created Noya district, which is a very largely a national park. So Noya cannot have the voice to claim anything. All these years, we have dialogued with government over it. We're still doing the same. But if we were to be reckless, we could make it a point of anger. And the consequences would not be good for this country. And that's where Ambassador Kinove and my brother minister find you in the NRM, find the courage to accept that you have also been very ordinary people, mortal and fallible, highly fallible. And that things can actually be much better than you want to portray. Because the portrayal doesn't change the fact. You cannot imagine a Latigo and a former professor, and I can, if you ask me for money, the 10,000 now, I cannot give you because I don't have that money. What about those lesser than me in the villages? And that's why when they said, oh, actually now they're going into NRM, and I said, you know what? When I was in Sir Samuel Baker School, in literature class, we used to read A Man for All Seasons, which was a book about Sir Thomas More. And in that book, there was this guy, Richard Rich, and he was arguing with Sir Thomas More, and he says, you can buy a man with suffering, impose suffering and offer him escape. So what you see now in Uganda, people rushing to NRM, is offering them false escape, that if I go to NRM, I will win elections. And then what? Will your people succeed in transforming themselves? There are pictures of the president out in the field, parish development model. Today I saw a big picture, a huge poultry thing, 10 million. Can you build that poultry unit with 10 million in 1 or 2 years? You can't. And then, until we really accept, and particularly until the president accepts that he has reached his limit, if he hands over to Ambassador Kinove and their team, it is much easier for me to talk to Kinove than to talk to the president.
Okay.
And it is much easier for Kinove to respect my competency as an expert and take my advice and use it for the benefit of the country.
Honorable Minister, when you hear both Honorable Salam and Honorable Professor Latigo, and you hear the point of anger, you have been on the ground. What sentiments do you feel Ugandans are grappling with that are the shortcomings of the NRM, and what are you doing about them?
First of all, just as Ambassador Kinove has said, there is some progress. I don't want Honorable Salam and Honorable Latigo to think there is nothing that has been done.
The word nothing is your word.
You know, those are because somebody just the way, for instance, Honorable Salam is portraying everything. It's as if there is completely nothing, but there is progress. Even the road network, there is improvement.
Yeah, I can see the ginger.
There is improvement. There is improvement. There is improvement. Yes, there is improvement. Because the Ginger Kampala highway needs rehabilitation. You're getting me? But at least there are roads which have been worked on. And if you look at the bituminous roads that has been worked on, the statistics can tell you You can now go to Moroto and you're on tarmac. So let us first appreciate what is there. And then you can also bring out the shortcomings. But at the whole, this economy has grown. But you should also know that the population is also increasing. And probably the economy is not growing at the same pace with the population. You are talking about school dropouts, children are not in school, but you should also know that because of good health policies, now there are many children who survive after the age of what? Of 5. There is immunization going on. Yes. Yes.
PWDs. Do you know in 80% of the villages, you fail to get people with disabilities? Do you think it is accidental?
It's
that
not.
The disabilities are no longer there. We
It's
failed
not.
most of the slots. We are not able to fill them because people who have disabilities.
Just hold on,
Yes.
Honorable Salam. Honorable Minister, let me allow Honorable Salam make a comment, then I come back to you.
You see, preparing a person with disability for elections is very expensive. Very, very expensive. You can't. So they're still there. They're still there. I'll tell you, there was an entire village in my constituency where half the kids were crawling.
You know, those are the exaggerations.
Yes, Honorable.
Those are
I can show you the village.
Those are some of the exaggerations.
How can I exaggerate?
That really defeat the, what Professor Latigo doesn't want to call opposition.
No,
those are the exaggerations.
Okay,
you
said
cannot have,
those are exaggerations of Salam.
Honorable Salam Musumba, you can't have half of the village crawling. That is totally out. And in this
you
country,
just have no clue.
Yes.
You see, you are asking even the wrong question. You as a minister should be saying, where?
I probably you ask, but me, I was a local government leader. I have a background of local government, and I know villages, and I know what is happening in those villages. So those exaggerations are the ones which actually distort.
Like I was a local government leader, and I know.
Now those exaggerations are the ones which distort actually the strength of the opposition. Because we need to appreciate that there is progress. But then now you can bring out where the loopholes are, what probably you feel NRM has not done well, and then we shall appreciate that. Just as Ambassador said, we need positive criticism.
I'll give you an example. Let me give him one example. In the year 2013, all the kids that were born in Kamuli, in December, the kids born in December 2013 were never immunized BCG. The vaccines were brought, the needle wasn't. It's madness. I mean, do they bring one vial of vaccine? I mean, it's a distortion. You guys are seated here, and I'll tell you, maybe they're all dead.
You know now, that's what I'm telling you.
I was a chairman of a district, and I pointed this out, and I caused the whole drug authority to come around and say, listen, how could you do this to us? So, yes. What do you call that?
It could have been an omission to pack the needles, but not because they were not there.
But Honorable Ambassador Chinobe, I think that is criticism that is constructive for us to see and go back to build it.
Timo, we talk about challenges and not failures. When there is a problem, you evaluate whether actually
imagine
it's a
if you were that
failure
child,
or it's a challenge resulting from what you're doing. The problem we have in this country, and this is what we are saying, we're not saying, by the way, I like the approach by Professor, that possibly we need to tone down and face this off as not as adversaries, but as partners in government, government and opposition are partners in government.
Okay. Let me come back to the minister.
Yes.
You know, there are pains that Honorable Salam is talking about.
Not pain, anger.
Let me specifically, let me moderate the show.
Yes.
No, she told
Specifically,
her word.
pain.
Anger.
Because, first of all...
I have patriotic anger. I want you to understand. I do have patriotic anger.
Let's call it patriotic anger.
Yes, I do.
And that's what I'm asking you. On the ground, there's good, but there's also things that are falling through the cracks that should ordinarily be like the alphabet, ABC.
They should be nipped in.
Yes.
Like when she talks about the vaccine being there and the needles not being there, these are some of the things that need to be addressed. What I'm asking is that when you're on ground, even as you have been moving around, have you felt this? And what do you give as alternatives to your government moving forward to solve these problems?
Obviously, we have felt some of these, but just as Ambassador has told you, if the vaccine arrives without the needles, that's a challenge that can be sorted in only even 1 week. Because you need
just
call. And they send the needles.
You think so.
They send
you
the
do
needles.
think so.
Yes.
There's no way. I worked for the Red Cross, and we had a program called Essential Drugs Kits. Okay? Now, an essential drugs kit is packed, ready for use. And that's what NDA, as a logistical entity, is supposed to do. That was Kamuli. You can imagine what was happening in Kit Group.
Yes, Honorable.
And Timothy,
somebody ate the needles.
That's what we are saying. Even the packaging, during the packaging, there can be a mistake.
According to what?
And that one can't. Because you can't say to us in Kamuli, what about other districts? Did they report that?
They could have reported differently.
Yes. So those are
because Kamuli had a versatile leader.
Let's allow the minister finish.
Let me
That's why she was voted out of Kamuli leadership.
Ambassador,
you did not help them to address your
so let the minister finish.
So me, what I'm saying is,
of course not. I never went back to be elected.
If that happens,
I wasn't interested in that rush.
Logistical issue that can be sorted out within a day.
No, come on.
So you cannot generalize that because Kamuli's vaccines didn't come with needles, then the whole country, that's what it was. Not at all. And as leaders, why we are leaders is to look at all those challenges and see how they can be sorted out. And what I'm saying is there is progress, but we have also seen challenges. And those challenges...
those are the ones we want you to address, Honorable Minister.
And those are the challenges that we need to address. And we have been here before, here on this same forum, and we identify those challenges. And as NRM now, we are looking at how we can sort out some of those challenges. Like the roads which are in bad shape. We have now looked for money and we need to rehabilitate all of them. And now we have a policy that maintenance should be, money for maintenance should be appropriated every year. And it should be enough to maintain those roads. So that once we have constructed a road, it should not just develop potholes and we leave them. Because once you leave them, they expand every day and the road gets damaged. So maintenance is now one of the priorities of government right now.
Hey, lo and behold.
And that one will sort out so many issues.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So me, I think, let the opposition not
the alternative
government. The alternative government.
The government
because
is waiting.
Now, the whole issue.
You had them.
You heard what he said. We want to capture NRM.
She,
yes, that she wants to capture NRM. No, and then to capture NRM, you have to bring out all those issues of Kamuli, no syringes, the road to Jinja. You're not going to capture NRM using that strategy. Not at all. You must go to the grassroots and mobilize people, because that's where NRM has defeated all of them.
Okay.
You have seen the people who are coming for nomination forms. Why are they rushing to NRM and then they are not rushing to FDC and the PFF?
Honorable Ambassador, let me come to you. Let me first finish with Professor. Professor, the pains of Ugandans and is really my child going to school, affordable hospital that I can take my child to. These issues seem to be somewhere diminishing, and the politics takes center stage. How do we flip this, that the issues become the reality of how we get our leaders?
Thank you very much. And I think maybe that's actually what is happening. Because the politics, why do they want to get into the politics? Of course, there are the issues you've mentioned, unemployment, youth unemployment, and that's the whole reason why that demographic is very, very serious on these things. Of course, you have health, you have education, you have underdevelopment, and all those kinds of infrastructure, agriculture, etc. So those are the issues. But over time, people have learned that decisions about those issues actually occur in Parliament more than they occur elsewhere. But again, to understand what people are doing, you have to understand the roles of Parliament. Of course, there's the legislation, there is the oversight, there's the appropriation in aid, and you can see, I mean, not in aid, but appropriation of the budget, or budget approvals, constitutionalism, making bills. You can see, if you look at the lifespan of a Parliament, it tends to be very active when they are discussing things of budgets. And why? Because budgets are what determine whether you're going to receive services. That's why when we read the national budget, they even give us a national map, which area seemed to get more than the other, and so which area was blessed, which area was not blessed, and all those things get worked out. So while the Parliament has all these other roles, what is more prominent in people is approval of the budget, so that at the end of the day, that translates into why you have the service. So I imagine many people are going into Parliament because, as the members have expressed here, people feel there's some kind of patriotic anger, as we've been told, or feeling that things could be better. Things are good, but they could be better than they are. So if I go in, probably I'll make the contribution to make the things actually better. So many people are going in, and I think they are going in for particularly that reason. And I imagine if we pay, and maybe we are not to say, I'm not really saying nothing has occurred. I think also as a people, because we don't do much documentation, we don't take note of what is doing well and what's not doing well. Or you just see the budget today has jumped from this trillion to this trillion, so 50% of this is donor aid, people get angry. But if there was proper documentation, then we would count how many health facilities have been constructed, how many roads, how many schools, how many. At the time of the background to the budget, actually these things are presented. Even during the budget reading, they tell you how much money they are giving to do what road. So ideally, parliamentarians should now go back and see that these have been done. But there's also a perception in the public that actually parliamentarians are not doing this, they are minding their own business, okay? Some people feel parliamentarians are using their positions to make money. But the biggest majority knows that parliamentarians are broke. So you have all these different areas, I mean views that are flying around. So I think partly maybe why everyone's going into leadership, and I don't want to say unemployment, because some of the people who are going there are very highly skilled, highly professional people. I think it's just the general belief that they could make a contribution to make things better than they are currently. Yeah.
How do we separate opportunists from service delivery? We have heard people saying Kanginde.
I think the process of getting into parliament is actually going to separate the opportunists. because it's not easy. I think in the past it was a little bit easy. But now here you can feel the pinch right from the point of the primaries. And as I said earlier, the whole reason of setting these standards as senior 6 and senior 4 for the lowest level was to increase participation. But now you see how that is being undermined by high nomination fees. And so there are people who, the poor, the women, the whatever, so many people who feel marginalized may not easily get in. But now, even after passing that bar, when the actual politics starts, like of course you have the party campaigns. Well, the other parties normally have one candidate unopposed per area, but in the NRM, we see there's no area which has less than 3 people combined for the position. Some are even 7, some are even 8. So already that's going to be one sieve. Then when we go to the main, you'll have the mainstream NRMs, the independents who have failed to get through the mainstream NRMs. Then you're going to have the FDC, the NUP, the PFF, and everybody else. So, and yet the positions are 1-1-1 per constituency. So there's definitely going to be a process of sieving. And I don't think it's going to just be an easy walkover. So if you really don't have the resources in some areas, you will not come. It's not going to be a battle of small people. You must be well-resourced, you must be well-networked, but you must also have clear networks in the community. You must be known by the community. And so what we shall have are not going to be just small people. It's really going to be real leaders. Thank you.
Before I give you parting shots, let me read these messages. Hello, Timothy. Thank you for the panel. Salam Musumba has just said it, offering quality leadership. This is seen today. People who steal government money are excused by the president. That's why everyone is going to the NRM to protect themselves. Okay, thank you very much. Someone else says, Honorable Kabyanga should be truthful. I worked in Kasese for 2 years while he was mayor, and I saw Kasese with the largest number of disabled people. I had to support them and get grants from Belgium. In this country, education has become frustrating. Agriculture, which employs 70% of the population, is optional in secondary schools, and English and history are compulsory. No wonder many of the Ugandans speak very good English, but have no food to eat. Okay. Well done, Timothy. Thank you for the panel. I lost my child in Mulago in the Cancer Institute because we were given the wrong chemo. And I was required to buy this medicine and syringes. Uganda is a broken state. This is SM from Entebbe. Okay? Timothy, please ask the Honorable Minister whether Zombo is part of Uganda. Then if yes, they should do something about our roads. Okay? The last two here, one is, Timothy, thank you for the show. Politicians who feel aggrieved are being cheated during the primaries, and the ones who are largely opting to go as independents. We already have something, some of them complaining, and they were cheated. Moreover, the NRM is insisting not to have independence, but also sign MOUs with them. Okay, this is Benjamin from Kampala. Finally, Lawrence from Barara says, good evening, Timothy. We want multi-party politics before. We went multi-party politics before. We were ready. And that's why political parties are suffering and moving forward there. Okay? Thank you for the messages. I'm going to give parting shots. I'll start with Professor, Ambassador Chinove, Honorable Salam, Honorable Professor Latigo, and lastly, the Honorable Minister. Your 2 minutes starting now.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody who has been watching us. It has been an interesting show. It's largely an interesting topic, focusing on our elections, nominations, the quality of parliament, and so much more. I think I would want to believe that people get leaders for particular seasons, and I don't think I'm one who would say the quality of parliament has gone down. Largely, I think we need to look at the roles of parliament. If they are providing leadership, they are providing oversight, they are doing legislation, they are representing their people in the best way, because that's another debate. People choose particular people to represent them, and they are doing conflict resolution. I think who are we to say that the parliament lacks quality? I think we need to assess them according to what they were set out to do, and if they have done what they were established to do, I think then they have done their work. I think what we can do is we cannot stop aspiring to be better. So if, as the Honorable Chinove told us, Ambassador, that the people who are now coming in for nominations are even superb, that one we celebrate. But I think what we really miss as a country is we lack a feedback loop. Because many leaders, when they're elected, depending again on how, not just, I don't want to say painful, but also the process they go through to be elected. It's not a very easy process. And also the electorate may not necessarily be very truthful in what they are telling them. Some leaders, except if you're well-resourced, don't go back. And because they don't go back, they cheat themselves of the views of the people of what is not working. Okay. So you end up just seeing people looking for leadership. I know there are those who are very active, engaging with the people all the time, but I think we need to establish proper feedback loops. It's not just enough to tell people, your MPs are in Kampala, find them and engage with them. I know in the past people used to have barazas, people used to have vimezas, in the community where they would engage and talk to these things. I think for future parliaments, we may have to insist that in addition to them being in the House and doing their constitutional mandates, they may also have to also account for time spent in the constituency engaging with the people on national development programs. I hope that way we shall improve. Ambassador Chinove.
I think what comes through is that we are the incumbent government. We are in leadership and we take responsibility for everything good and bad. I think the best we need to do is to be able to evaluate and explain what has been done, come out honestly where we have challenges, things that have not worked, and I think continue maybe engaging with the, our friends in the government in waiting.
We, the citizens.
Well, we can't, okay, but I'm saying I'm talking about those who don't want to be called the opposition, but the government in waiting. One thing I know and I can authoritatively say is that the country is not where it was. We have made very long strides. The quality of the people, if Ugandans, when you look at them, the quality of how they reside, the quality of how we read, but it doesn't mean that everybody is fine. Definitely those who are fine, there are always factors behind why they are slightly much better than others. We know there are others who also struggling and things are not working out. We own up. But I want to tell our viewers that as an organization, we are better prepared to continue pushing us than the alternatives that you have around. And that's why even at our rating where we are maybe at around 60%, the opposite forces have only succeeded in one thing, using the anger and use the anger which now sometimes generates into the young people, those who may not be aware. And finally, we are going to set this country on fire. Honorable Atigo made a very good point, that in Kenya leaders address each other differently. It's not because of the government, but I think even those who are on the other side address each other differently. I remember all the time when Professor Atigo was in Parliament, even when he was heading the opposition, you could see sometimes constructive engagements, but we have slightly degenerated. Honorable Salam Musumba will bear with me that her leader has himself continuously told the people that I cannot engage with the President Museveni. Okay. I think they don't. We can close it. As leaders, this country is all ours. We can fit in it. We can engage as we first did in the first 10 years, where we had the 10-point program, maybe an acceptable agenda, and we move as a country.
And what was my leader then in that 10-point program?
Your leader was still with us. When he crossed over to the other side, things went on generating. But I want to believe that it's right. We know we don't need to use anger. We need to use constructive engagement and push the country further.
You.
Thank you.
Honorable Salam.
Well, my last engagement on this panel today, I'd like to say that we are duty-bound to grow and nurture a democratic culture in our country. The responsibility falls on us. And therefore, we must be mindful of all the different, the trends, the patterns, the turns, the twists and turns that are befalling us out of negligence because of the lack of feedback. For instance, you can tell this by the coded language we are engaged in. The coded language. We are back in the days of Radio Katwe. You remember Radio Katwe. You do also remember Radio Tanzania when we were listening to radio under our beds. You remember Mbala Sasa. And now it is a Gali. You see, the unintended consequences of the things that we are doing as political leaders is going to catch up with us. And so let us strive, get out of your high horses and your high pedestals. Get out of there, get on the ground. Let's build this country together. There's nothing that you're showing off about. Whatever you are talking about, we built together. You didn't build alone. You didn't bring your father's money in it.
Thank you.
We have built this country together. I've paid my taxes. I have made my contribution. And I want my contribution to count and to secure the generations to come. And so that is what I'd like to see, a democratic culture. And I think we've done it. In our time, none of us has gone to the bush.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Professor Latigo.
Well, Timothy, let me start by thanking Ugandans. It is midnight. That people take the interest to watch means that they value this country.
Yes.
And I hope that we who have the advantage of occupying leadership position recognize that. But also, if you were to jot down the responses that you read, you'll hear very many issues of concern.
Yeah.
You know, the problem with the NRM is they're like a father who has given birth to a child. That child will obviously grow. But while others are aspiring to take their children to become doctors, this other parent here is saying, can't you see, he's taller than he was last year. But he's not gone to school. Tomorrow that child will come and torment you. Any regime, any government would take pride in how people react to the things they have done. And will take big concern in how people react to the things they have not done, failed to do, or have done wrongly.
Okay.
And that is the only basis of progress in leadership.
Thank you. Lastly, Honorable Minister.
Yes, I think I would like to thank the listeners and viewers for their comments. There's one who says Kasese has so many people, so many disabled people.
Had when you were mayor.
Exactly, yeah. There are people with disabilities in Kasese, but what we need to know is there are so many types of disabilities. First of all, some of the disabled people in Kasese are as a result of landmines. Because you know, ADF Naru operated in Kasese for 10 years. Even in Kasese town itself, there were people who were hit by landmines. One of them is a friend of mine. He must be an AIGP now. He was a DPC in Kasese. He was hit by a landmine, and his leg was cut off. So all those are types of disabilities. But what I was saying is disabilities due to immunizable diseases have reduced. I think that's what we should appreciate. And that one doesn't mean they are no longer people with what? Disabilities. And I would also like to, first of all, tell Ugandans that there is progress, but still we need to do better than that.
Okay.
And I would like to emphasize that, just as Professor Latigo said in the beginning, I think we need to look at agriculture now and put more money so that we can really increase production and productivity. And that one, let us take it seriously. And let us also listen to the president. This issue of improving household income and the interventions the NRM government has put in place, let us take them seriously. Let us not be politicking all the time. Lastly, elections are coming in. Let us concentrate on facts and ideas. All our manifestos, whether opposition or NRM, they are talking about good governance, they are talking about socio-economic transformation. Let us tell the people what we are going to do and not concentrate on trivial issues. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the gentlemen and ladies for coming and being able to express your views and submissions here. I really appreciate them. Professor, Ambassador, Honorable Salam, Professor Latigo, as always, Honorable Minister, thank you very much. But also we have a small celebration today. I will not end with a quote. I don't know how many of you are celebrating birthdays in this month. Mine is today. Yeah, that's why we brought the cake.
Mine was yesterday.
That's why the cake is here.
Mine was yesterday.
So we brought a cake to celebrate 2 birthdays, the Honorable Minister and Ambassador Chinobe. So the cake is here, and we'll cut it. I'll ask the team to really unwrap it so that the minister can lead with Ambassador. I hope this can also unite our thinking.
No, this is interesting.
Yes. So, Honorable Minister, if you can please come.
Sure.
We celebrate her too. So, Ambassador, please come. Honorable Minister, please come. Professor, please join in. Honorable Minister, if you can come closer to Ambassador and be able to cut this cake for... Yes, you can. We can untag ourselves. Honorable Salam Musumba's sister is not on the cake, but
yes,
yeah, we shall celebrate her too.
Yes, thank you.
Please, Professor Latigo also join us.
Prof.
We're celebrating Honorable Kabianga.
June babies.
June babies.
June babies, where are you? You. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, Honorable Minister.
Thank you for watching. Thank you. We'll end the show here, and we'll enjoy your cake on your behalf.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.